what's the difficulty going into this week? I know you're expecting to have your quarterback back. Where's that status right now?
Yeah, I mean, we went through practice today. He was able to do, team periods, individual, all those type of things. It's really going to come down to later in the week, when he gets tested again, see where his spleen's at, see what his blood work's like. We just got to really kind of get both these guys ready.
Are you going to approach the game plan with both of them in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a choice.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I mean, this is 27 games as a backup quarterback. I've done it a few times.
Who goes into the decision if he plays on Sunday?
Doctors, trainers, coaches, GM. Really, everybody's just watching and seeing how he looks, and then really it's going to come down to the test results. So, I mean, that's got to be where it needs to be. He's got to look right. He's got to be involved in it. So it's really going to be a pretty big circle as far as if he plays or not.
Do you change? Do you have like a different game plan, like one if Darnold plays and one if it's Luke?
I mean, for the most part, I mean, the offense is the offense. So, I mean, we've been repping the same stuff, since spring, and with both those guys kind of working in, running the same plays. So, I mean, it's not going to change too much.
Adam, who backs up Luke if Sam can't play?
We'll have to probably make a decision on what we're going to do, whether it be bring up our practice squad guy or go get somebody else.
Adam, Joe Douglas, you mentioned the GM. In the few months you've worked with him now, what has he added to the organization, and what stood out about him?
I feel like he's done a great job creating competition, adding depth to our roster, being very active, whether it be on the waiver wire or through trades. He's done a great job. Like, he's the ultimate communicator. He does such a great job just, talking with me, getting with our coaches, the guys that work for him upstairs. I mean, he's made my job really easy.
Obviously, between the time you worked with him in Chicago and now he was in Philly, what have you seen either specifically or intangibly that has come from his experience in Philly?
Well, I mean, with him, his experience just overall, he's one of those guys. He's just, his resume speaks for itself as far as being part of organizations that have put together winning seasons. I mean, it's something crazy where it's like 13 out of the 16 years he's had a winning record. I mean, that's hard to do in the NFL. Obviously, being there and the success and the roster that they built there, it just shows that those guys did a great job of creating an unbelievable amount of talented players that have depth at a lot of different positions. That's why you see these guys they'll have injuries in it, and there's a slight fall off, but they find ways to win with different guys.
Philosophically speaking, what do you have in common with Joe? And do you think that's important for a coach-GM dynamic?
Well, I think both of us we were raised under, the same philosophy. Myself being with Coach Saban for as long as I was, and him being in Baltimore with Ozzie, it's just, we see things similar. There's discussions on, certain things that we've kind of developed, like our way about doing things over the years. But, our foundations we were raised the same in this profession.
How much does his familiarity with the roster help you guys with your game planning this week?
I mean, really, he can tell us about the guys. He can tell us strengths, weaknesses, all those type of things. I mean, obviously, he has very intimate knowledge of the entire roster. The hardest thing is at the end of the day, they have a lot of really good players, and it's going to come down to whether or not we execute what we're doing and whether or not they execute what they're doing.
Adam, the Eagles lead the league in third down conversions. What do you think makes them so successful on that down?
You're talking about their offense, right?
Yes, their offense, correct.
Yeah. Well, I would just say when they have the line they have the quarterback they have, and then you put that group of receivers, tight ends, and running backs out there, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, at least for me. I think they got a lot of guys that they can do so many different things, man. They can stretch the field. They can catch underneath throws. They can, Alshon being there, it's like I used to always look at it like this. I didn't care how many guys were on him. just how Cutler throw it up and give him a chance because he plays above the rim. I mean, it just makes it very difficult to cover those many different type of guys.
As you watched that Eagles-Packers game last Thursday, what stood out specifically about what the Eagles did that night?
I thought they did a great job of one, managing through the injuries they had. I mean, that's in game. It's one thing to kind of go in a game knowing where you're at and kind of knowing how to adjust have your packages ready to go going into the game. But when you start losing guys and as many guys as they did in game on defense, that's tough. That's tough sledding. I thought they did a great job of adjusting and finding ways to make plays. And then offensively, I mean, those guys, I mean, it's a tough group to go against. And, even with Deshaun not out there last week, it just makes it really difficult.
Hey, if I could ask you in general, just like in the short time that you've had Sam Darnold, obviously before the mono, like what have you seen in him as far as his progression from last year when you're game planning against him, to this year?
Yeah, last year was an interesting year for him because he played and then he got injured and then he came back and it almost looked like he went through years 1 and 2 in 1 year. Like sitting those few games was actually really beneficial for him to kind of see Josh play, and he was able to take what he saw and apply it towards the end of the season. He got rid of the ball faster. He was taking less negative plays. He was making really smart decisions with the football. He cut his turnovers way down, took less sacks. And I think heading into this season, it was almost like he was in year 3. He skipped that sophomore year. Obviously, with him being out the last few weeks, I mean, that was probably harder for him to have to watch from a distance because he wasn't around here. But at the same time, he's being able to watch, absorb everything, watch a lot of film. I know he was staying really involved in what we were doing, and I think he's just glad to be back out there.
Have you seen anything different from Jim Schwartz's schematic moves this season on defense?
I mean, Jim's always going to have, things that are going to look a little different. I think he's always going to take what personnel he has and he's going to put them in the best position possible. I mean, I guess it's the last time I played him was 5 years ago, and, every snap was to Tampa. And then when he going to Philly, he changed that up. And then, every year it's been something that's just a little different. So, but Jim's always going to do what's best for that game. Like he's able to say, hey, this is what is the best chance for us to play really good defense and win this game. That's what he's going to do.
Adam, when you have a team that goes for it on 4th down and 2-point conversions as much as the Eagles do, how do you address that during the week?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you just have to be ready for. You have to be ready for it both defensively and offensively. If you get any opportunities and you make a stop and you get a chance to have a shorter field, you got to take advantage of it. It's that if you stop them and then don't take advantage of it, really at the end of the day, that's a win for them because they had an opportunity to go for it. They didn't get it, but then we don't put any points on the board, then it doesn't hurt them. It changes field position a little bit, but I think when you have the offense they have, I mean, they have great confidence in those guys being able to convert, and if you give them an extra down, the percentage of them being able to convert goes up.
Adam, getting back to the Eagles defense, they added Matt Burke this offseason. It's kind of a behind-the-scenes role, but from your experience with him, what does he bring to a coaching staff?
Well, I think, the fact that he was a coordinator the last couple of years and his involvement in our first year in Miami, he was the linebackers coach, but I mean, him and VJ worked hand in hand, and he had a lot to say in what we were doing on defense. I think that experience alone is incredibly valuable because he can kind of see things through a different lens. I'm sure he's really valuable for Jim to have in the building. I mean, I probably don't have to tell you guys. I mean, Matt is extremely smart. He's a very good coach. He does a great job with players. He does a great job game planning. He puts guys in really good position. I mean, it was one of those. Matt is really good. Like when I would be on the defensive headsets and hearing him call play after play out and putting our guys in the right position. I mean, it was almost as an offensive coordinator, you're thinking, I hope that's not happening on the other side of the ball because it's impressive to hear him go through a game and call out as much as he does.
Adam, after Devontae Adams beat them deep early last week, Jim went to a lot of too deep. Now, especially with all of his cornerback injuries, Do you expect to see a lot of that this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really kind of guess what he's going to do. I think our preparation has to be ready for anything because, I don't necessarily know what he's thinking. And I think we just got to do a good job of understanding kind of what we're doing, how we're game planning things, and we have to be able to react in that game. If it becomes a two Tampa type of game where, that's what he wants to play, then we have to be able to do a good job running the football and being smart with the ball as far as when we throw it. And if he does something else, then we got to be ready to adjust to that.
Luke Falk is a quarterback who comes from an air raid background. It seems like there's a lot more of those quarterbacks getting chances now. What have you seen and how that system has shaped them, and how do you see on that system kind of shaping the NFL right now?
Well, I mean, ever since I've been with him, I mean, the thing that I've noticed about him is he's extremely smart. He understands what the defense is trying to do. Obviously he's not afraid to throw the ball. He does a really good job of understanding, like, when that number one's open, he turns it loose. He throws with anticipation, but he's able to, be able to progress through, the route concepts. And I think, a lot of these guys that are kind of playing now, it's, they're getting chances, and when they're getting on the field, a lot of them are making the most of the opportunities.
Adam, what do you make of Jim's usage of his nickel and dime personnel this season versus previous ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just all about what he thinks the best personnel is for that game. I mean, if he feels like using nickel and having, three safeties in there, and that's what's going to win him the game, then that's what he's going to do. If he thinks dime's the best package or just a regular nickel package, I think it's all about kind of the personnel available to him, and then at the same time, what does that game call for?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Take care.
All right, guys.